Yeah, sure.
Maybe just so no one takes the thing over before you talk, you might want to step up the mics. Because our extra channel might take it.
Oh, no.
How are you, Gruffy? Good, mate.
You ready? Yep. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Today is a day of great concern for us. We've got the Victorian Auditor General report into the Commonwealth Games debacle. Now, you'll all recall this report is here because my colleagues and I asked for it last year when we first learned about the Commonwealth Games debacle. We were that concerned about it then that we asked the Auditor General to conduct an independent investigation into one of the most serious debacles in Victoria's recent history. And we know that it has at least cost, in terms of money wasted, $600 million, maybe more than that, and certainly untold damage to Victoria's reputation. The main concerning finding amongst all of the concerning findings in this report is this. This report contains evidence that Jacinta Allen lied to the Victorian people. The Premier of Victoria lied about the costs of the Commonwealth Games. And I'll tell you why that's so based on this report. This report contains information that has not previously been known to the Victorian public. Thanks to this report, which we asked for, we now have more information. And it shows that Premier Allen did lie about the costs of the Commonwealth Games in the lead up to the cancellation of those games. So let me explain why we have these concerns. On the 20th of April 2023, as this report now indicates, Cabinet took a decision to increase the budget for the Commonwealth Games from $2.6 billion to $3.6 billion. We asked now Premier Jacinta Allen about the Commonwealth Games on the 16th of May, some weeks after Cabinet had made that decision to increase the budget. Premier Allen, as she now is, confirmed the $2.6 billion figure weeks after her own Cabinet had decided to increase the budget from $2.6 billion to $3.6 billion. But it doesn't get much better. On the 23rd of May last year, the Victorian government delivered its budget. Now, you may recall, I need to take you back a step here. In the 2022-23 budget, there was a line item for the Commonwealth Games. It was fixed at $2.6 billion. On the 23rd of May 2023, the date of the current financial year's budget, that line item was taken out. And we now know, thanks to this report at page 19, we now know, thanks to this report, that in fact what had happened was that Cabinet decision to increase the budget from $2.6 to $3.6 billion was taken out as a line item and hidden in contingencies. Why? Because Jacinta Allen didn't want us to know about the blowout. They took it out as a line item and hid it in general contingencies. That's what this report shows. So when we say that Premier Allen and her government have lied to the Victorian people and lied to the Victorian Parliament, that's why we say that. It's in this report. These aren't our findings. These are the findings by the Auditor General and his office into what went on around the Commonwealth Games debacle. The last thing I just wanted to say before I hand over to Sam. is that the Premier's credibility is in tatters today, absolutely in tatters today. And the further evidence for that, on top of what I've just said, is that on the 14th of June, we know from the Premier and her evidence to the Parliament that she says she first learned that lawyers had been brought in to get out of the Commonwealth Games. You wouldn't need for any other purpose. Yet Jacinta Allen, as the then Minister, petition to Cabinet on the 14th of July, one seeking an increase from the publicly unknown figure of $3.6 billion to $4.2 billion. We know that from this independent report now. So, weeks after Jacinta Allen herself, according to information she's given to all of us, first learned that lawyers had been brought in to get Victoria out of the Commonwealth Games and to explore what that would involve. 4 weeks later, she brought a submission to Cabinet wanting to increase the publicly unknown budget from $3.6 billion to $4.2 billion. And a day later, the Premier brought that submission, which would ultimately lead to the cancellation of the Commonwealth Games. This report, an independent report by Victoria's Auditor General, contains irrefutable findings that lead to only one conclusion: that Premier Allen lied to the Victorian Parliament and she lied to the Victorian people. I will now hand over to Sandra.
Thank you, John. The findings by the Auditor General scathing on Jacinta Allen, on the now Premier. Can also just add a few points to what John has already made. This report states that the original business case was extremely low. It wasn't well planned and it wasn't communicated between different areas of the public service. But the figure presented by then Premier Andrews and by Jacinta Allen as the then Minister for Commonwealth Games Delivery of $6.9 billion was drastically overstated. Now, John just mentioned that on the 14th of July, Jacinta Allen made a submission to Cabinet seeking funds up to $4.2 billion, and only 4 days later, the then Premier went out and made a statement to the Victorian people that the cost of the Commonwealth Games was going to be up $1 billion. How did the government get $3 billion wrong over the space of 4 days? This was a complete hoax. The Commonwealth Games was a cruel hoax delivered to the Victorian people to deliver votes for the government. They care more about playing politics with our reputation than delivering what is needed for the Victorian people.
We'll take some questions.
John, what do you make of the Premier's response has been to sit down with her Department Secretary and make clear her expectation departments need to work much better together? What do you make of that?
Oh, this is just a distraction by Premier Allen. We have serious findings about her dishonesty with the Victorian people and the Victorian Parliament. That in this independent report by the Victorian Auditor General, you now see for the first time, because of the work the Auditor General has been able to undertake at our request, the facts that lead you inevitably and irrefutably to the conclusion that Jacinta Allen misled deliberately the Victorian people and this Parliament. So for the Premier to talk about conversations with her public service, I've got to tell you, the Victorian people will rightly be more concerned about whether they can trust and believe a word Premier Allen says now. And it's because of that after this press conference, Sam and I will go into the chamber and seek to adjourn debate so we can immediately begin debating the scathing findings of this report. These are very because they cast a light Victorian will want to accept. They will want to know that they can trust and believe every word of their Premier. And this report impeaches the Premier's credibility in a way I have not seen an Auditor General's report do so in any time I've been involved in public life.
We kept asking her to sit down with who should be held accountable for this. They said no one because the people have already gone. But she was the Minister in charge. Should she be held accountable? What should happen to her?
The Commonwealth Games debacle occurred under the direct watch of now Premier Allen. We long ago called for her to be accountable for it's clear now on these reports that everything we were concerned about at the time, the dishonesty, the lies, the misleading and the Parliament, has all been vindicated in this Auditor General report. And bear in mind, the Victorian people now know these facts. only because there was an Auditor General's report that we asked for. And her did nothing to shed light on the issue. We long ago wanted to find out what the current cost of $1 billion line item in the 2022-23 budget is still current. They knew they weren't. They lifted that figure from 2.6 to 3.6, but hidden it in general contingency. That is unethical. That is unprincipled. That is wrong. And it was a lie to the Victorian people. Well, heads should definitely roll in this matter. We've been calling for that for many months. What this report confirms is that we can't believe or rely on Premier Allen to be clear and upfront and honest about the Commonwealth Games. And believe and trust anything else, whether it's hospital deficits and school backlog, teacher shortages, roads funding, crisis justice system, whatever you are concerned about, and we leave and rely on anything Premier Allen now says. Damning findings in
All right. Just on another matter.
Sure.
Georgie, we spoke to Georgie Crozier before about claims from Marianne. Marianne Thomas believes she went polio.
Or into dishonesty of the Victorian government. Georgie Crozier is a fantastic parliamentarian. She's respected across the board, and I'm just not going to dignify any of the comments that Marianne Thomas or any of her colleagues have made about her.
But not the list that you gave us the other day about your donors. We don't figure out whether that is in the table for Parliament or has been released.
Look, I'll check into that. My understanding it's all gone there, and that's part of the reason why we just made it available to all of you. So let me check on that, but it's definitely something we've made public.
Can
Okay.
I ask you a question?
Yeah,
What did you think of all the media coverage over the weekend about leadership speculation?
Look, I'm not going to buy into speculation. I'm standing here beside John. John is the leader of our party. I'm proud to be a member of his shadow cabinet. And this is what happens when the team works together and we do things that we should be doing as an opposition to hold this government to account. That is what I'm focused on. That is what John's focused on as our leader, and I stand beside him.
So you don't have any leadership aspirations?
No. Oh, sorry, can I just say, I'm a new member of this parliament. I'm an aspirational person. I am ambitious. Right now, my focus is to make sure John delivers the best possible opposition and becomes the future Premier of this state.
But you do see yourself as a leader at some point?
I would be lying to you if it said at some point, and John and I have actually had this conversation, at some point, yes, I would like to be a part of the leadership of this party. Is that today? Absolutely not.
And Sam's doing a great job. Well done,